closed down. People are afraid. People are running away from Bako because of all the fighting that is going on there. And for the life of me, I cannot even understand the reason why these people who are fighting each other cannot stop for a moment and think that this fighting that we are engaged in is costing us so much. How can proper development even come to Bako when the place is so volatile with all kinds of fighting? Will those who are involved in this fight think about the future, think about the well-being, think about the development? People are afraid to go to Bako because you don't know when there is going to be a gunshot somewhere which you could be caught in the crossfire and die. And people are afraid. Why? Why can't we find a lasting solution? Why can't the feuding factions and ethnic groups and tribes decide that we are tired, we don't want to fight again, we don't want to continue killing each other? I mean, what at all is it? Is it the issue of being called the chief and having the grandiose and I don't even know the words to use to describe it, but the pride and the prestige of being, yes, I am the chief. And so is it because of that there is a rival chief and then there is the main chief, and because of that the followers of this chief and the followers of that chief and this ethnic group and that ethnic group and who is connected to this political party and who is connected to that political party, all of these complex undertones coming together, and people are just taking up arms and fighting. There's the proliferation of small arms and weapons of different kinds in the hands of individuals who are ready to fight. For what? People of Bako, good people of Bako, for what? Why? What will it benefit you if you take up arms and go and kill someone because you have a problem with them because of some chieftaincy issue or some tribal issue? What do you gain? Like, what do you gain? You do not realize that you are destroying the very fabric of the town that you claim to love and the place that you want to be a boss in. You don't get it that you are destroying the very potential for development of the community, of the town, of the traditional area that you live in. Are you happy going out and picking arms to kill somebody because of a chieftaincy issue or a tribal or ethnic or political issue? And this is to both sides that are feuding in Bako. Whoever is on whichever side is not helping. You people should be committed to peace. Peace, because what is happening in that enclave is something which in turn affects the entirety of the country. And people even take advantage of issues like this to engage in terrorist activities, because recently there was a Reuters report which is saying that there are terrorist activities going on along Ghana's border. We know Bako is close to a border, right? From Bako you can move close to a border with Burkina Faso. People can take advantage of this situation in Bako and cause terrorism activities in this country. It can happen, even though the National Security Ministry has debunked these terrorist activities. But look, it is not lost on anybody that there is the potential for that to happen, because there are terrorists all around us. So I think the government will be minded. The security couples will meet. I believe that they've been meeting and they are trying to find strategies and lasting solutions to this Bako issue. I don't think the good people of Bako who want to mind their business and do their day-to-day activities in the town are happy about all that is going on. I don't think that they even want, majority of the people in the town want to fight. But there are elements in there who enjoy the fighting and enjoy the killing. And it is not the best. So whoever is involved in government, because we have a government and the RICSEC and the DISEC in that area, together with the National Security Ministry, the Ministry for Interior, the Ministry for Defense, should come together. I believe that there was a meeting which was held recently where they are trying to jojo and find a lasting solution, because peace must come to Bako. And whoever is involved in an illegality, that person should be dealt with. Whoever is in the wrong in these chieftaincy and ethnic issues should be dealt with. It's an eyesore what is happening there, and it's unfortunate. But of course, if you're a praying person, make sure that every time that you are praying for the good people of Bako, for there to be lasting peace there. That's one of the issues that we want to get into this morning here on the show as well. But of course, in all of this, when we always begin the show, we like to begin with a quote. And so let's zoom straight into our quote of the day this morning. Let's zoom straight into it. And our quote of the day today is Duke Ellington's words. And he says, a problem is a chance for you to do your best. A problem is a chance for you to do your best. So anytime that you are faced with a problem, bear in mind that this problem that I am facing is a chance for me to actually prove myself, for me to actually improve, for me to actually put in the work, for me to actually do my best. This is a profound quote, and I want it to stay with you all throughout the week. That any problem that you are faced with, right from this Tuesday morning, all throughout the entire week, and in fact for the rest of the month, for the rest of the year, for the rest of your life, really, always know that when a problem comes your way, it is your chance to actually do your best. Think about it. And that's our quote of the day. We'll now take a look at our word of the day for this nice Tuesday morning. Obviously, we're always trying to help you to improve your vocabulary. And so, take a look at our word of the day today.
Today's word of the day is Heirloom. 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 It's a noun. It means a valuable property belonging to a family which has been passed on to different generations of the same family for many years. An example of this is the crown on the bride's head is an heirloom given to her by her mother. Heirloom.
Heirloom. That's a new word that you can add to your vocabulary so that you always improve your English speaking. And that's what we seek to do for you every single morning. We learn a new word and we add it to our vocabulary and we become better speakers. Let's look at our video of the day for this morning. When we return, we'll get to the Inside Out segment. We've got caught today. We've got the breakfast review and a whole lot more coming up for you here on GH Today. But for now, let's enjoy our video of the day. Now so on one CCTV, they be anywhere. So that's the God that we serve. He is omnipresent. He is everywhere, and his eyes are always on us. And so you should trust him. You should depend on him because he doesn't slumber and he doesn't sleep. That's the import of the song by Sarkodie and Kim Promise. It's called CCTV. That's our video of the day. Let's now do Inside Out. Inside Out today, we want to touch very briefly on the latest Afrobarometer report. The latest Afrobarometer report is out, and it's talking about corruption, about honesty of electoral candidates, and a host of other things that Ghanaians are concerned about. The issue of corruption has been topical in this country for God knows how long, and it still remains a topical issue. And if this Afrobarometer report is anything to go by, there is an indication that we really are not improving with regard to our fight against corruption. In spite of all the measures seemingly that have been put in place to try and deal with the canker, it is still prevalent, it is still increasing, and Ghanaians are getting tired of it. There is also the issue of having trust in candidates that are contesting in this country's elections on December 7th. There are a lot of Ghanaians who believe that the honesty of the person, the honesty and integrity of the person who is contesting in this year's elections is something which is paramount, it is key, and it's important in order for them to decide whether they are going to vote for them or not. There is also eroding trust in public institutions. Eroding trust in public institutions, which is a problem, because if there are public institutions that are supposed to perform certain functions for us, and we, the people who are benefiting from the functions of these public institutions, do not trust in those public institutions, it becomes a problem. It becomes a very big problem that we have on our hands. When you take a look at the Afrobarometer report from the Center for Democratic Development, that's the CDD, it's revealing a very historic decline in public trust in these institutions. And a lot of citizens are expressing very deep concern over the integrity of state entities, including the Electoral Commission's ability to conduct free, fair, and transparent elections. And so the Electoral Commission will be minded by this latest Afrobarometer report to exhibit itself in a manner that engenders trust in its ability to perform to the satisfaction of Ghanaians, in its ability to conduct a free, fair, transparent election without any hitches or issues. The Electoral Commission should do its things in such a way that all the political parties have trust that the EC can do a good job and will not doubt its credibility or its ability to perform its functions. Because if the trust in the Electoral Commission is eroded and it reaches an all-time low, it is a recipe for disaster. Because imagine that there are people who belong to a political party who believe that they have won an election or they are going to win an election, and the Electoral Commission, which is not trusted by these individuals and the majority of Ghanaians, comes out and then delivers a verdict that doesn't go in the favor of those who believe that they are going to win or that they have won. Just imagine the chaos that would erupt in this country. But if we have an Electoral Commission which everyone sees as being credible right from the get-go, all the processes they engage in, all the decisions that they take are something that everybody can rally behind and everybody is able to see, Fili Gadochi, like someone would say, Fili Gadochi, that this is finchim and this is clear and transparent. Then if I believe that I'm going to win and then we go to the polls and I eventually do not win, because the processes have been so clear and transparent, I won't have any qualms with it. I will accept the fate that the results have handed over to me, and then I'll move on. But if there is no trust, that is where the problem comes. And so this latest Afrobarometer report should be something which should be a guide. And the Electoral Commission should be minded of this particular issue and do something about it, because if people do not believe in the ability of the Electoral Commission to conduct free, fair and transparent elections, then it's not going to work well for us. And also in this report by the CDD, trust in key state institutions and also its officials is showing only marginal declines since 2022, but is reflecting a major drop from the levels in 2012. So that's something that is worth noting. According to the report, public trust has eroded significantly in institutions like the judiciary, the tax authorities, the presidency, and even parliament, with particular skepticism directed towards officials who are perceived as corrupt. So 74% of Ghanaians say that corruption levels increased somewhat or a lot over the past year. 74% of Ghanaians believe that corruption is increasing. Corruption in the judiciary, corruption with the tax authorities, the GRA and co. Corruption at the presidency, corruption at parliament and among MPs. That is what people see and perceive, and it is not a good look for this country. And so those institutions which have been fingered, the Ghana Police Service, is stopping it. So those institutions will be minded. The executive arm of government, the presidency, is seen as very corrupt. The police is seen as very corrupt. The judiciary is seen as corrupt. If trust in the judiciary is eroding, then it is a big problem, because the judiciary is our last resort. The judiciary is where we go and have our concerns addressed. If I have a grievance, I'm going to the courts to have those grievances addressed. And if there is no trust in the judiciary, then it poses a very big problem. And we all seen the kinds of commentary that is being directed towards the Supreme Court recently because of all of this, brouhaha with regard to parliament and jurisdiction and what have you. There have been times in this country where the NDC has been labeling the Supreme Court unanimous 7 and what have you. All of these things do not augur well for an institution like the judiciary, and we'll be minded to make sure that that does not fester, that the image of the judiciary is upheld and it is turned into a very trustworthy institution, so that when I am going to court, I know that whatever verdict comes out of the courts is just, that justice has been delivered. That is the perception that Ghanaians should be having. Ghanaians should not be having the perception that even when I go to the courts, justice is not going to be done to me. That is why the justice delivery system is done in tiers. There is the district court, the magistrate court, the high court. If you are not satisfied, go to the court of appeal. If you are not satisfied, you go to the Supreme Court. If you are not satisfied, still at the Supreme Court, the panel of judges is increased and they do a review. That is why the judicial process is something which can go systematically through the entire process, so that at every given point in time, you know that once you go through the exhaustive justice delivery process, you are okay. But if people have a perception about mistrust in the judiciary, then it leaves much to be desired. And so that is something that we should be minded of. I mean, just a mere 26% of Ghanaians believe that they can report corruption without fear or retaliation. So if I see corruption and I need to report the corruption to IOCO, to SHRAJ, to the Ghana Police Service, to the corruption institutions, the Special Prosecutor's Office, there are a lot of Ghanaians who believe that they can report without fear or favor. Just 26% of them. The rest of Ghanaians believe that even if I report their corruption, nothing is going to happen, because the key people who are in certain high places will manipulate the system. And when they manipulate the system, they are going to go scot-free, because we've seen people who have been corrupt in this country and they are walking around free without any repercussions whatsoever. That definitely is not a good look for this country, and people should not be having a perception like that. And so this CDD report, as I'm wrapping up Inside Out, should be a guide to the institutions that have been looked at and the perceptions that people have about these institutions, right? These institutions should look at them and should begin to take the steps that are necessary to change the perceptions of Ghanaians through their actions. So the presidency should be acting in a manner which exudes confidence in Ghanaians that the presidency is up and doing and has the interest of the country at heart. Parliament should be acting in such a way that the people they are representing believe that they have their interests at heart and are acting right. The Ghana Police Service, the political parties, the judiciary, the Electoral Commission, all of these institutions should be minded by this latest CDD report. The tax officials, the GRA and co, be minded by this CDD report and act in turning around the perceptions of people. And the only way that the perceptions of people can be turned is when people actually see and hear that these institutions are actually doing the right thing without any other considerations but the best for the country and the people. That will do it for Inside Out. All right, let's take a look at the newspaper headlines for this morning, beginning from the Daily Guide newspaper. On the front page, Ashanti clergy embraces education reform. Okwe launches manifesto for Dom Kwabinya. Parliament must lead Africa's global response. OT chiefs declare support for Baumia. I will make Commonwealth relevant. That's according to Ayoko Boche. So that's it for the Daily Guide newspaper this morning. On the Daily Post today, December 7, polls. The U.S. is announcing visa restriction policy targeting individuals who are undermining democracy in Ghana. So they say if you are undermining democracy in Ghana, if you are an individual and you are found to engage in acts that undermine Ghana's democracy, you should forget about getting a visa to the US if you want to. You can't come and undermine Ghana's democracy and then want to run away to another country which has a thriving democracy. No. So that's what the US is saying. Mahama donates Zakat Trust Fund at the 4th Muslim Conference. Speaker Bakbing strikes back at the Supreme Court and gunshots, chaotic scenes. Cynthia Morrison gives details of supposed assassination attempt. Let's move on from the Daily Post newspaper. Dispatch says NDC reset means cancellation of nurses' allowance. That's according to NAPO running mate to Dr. Baumia. Alan Chamanting asked me to be his running mate, but I declined. That's according to Oliver Bako. He told Bolare this on Star Chat last Thursday on Star FM. To boost domestic use of LPG, prices need to be reduced. That's the chief of Abola. National Security condemns false reportage on Ghana's alleged support for Islamist militants. That's also there on the front page of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Let's move on. The Chronicle says 81 modern school blocks ready. Aduchum tells the clergy in Kumasi, my election is a win for Ghana. That's according to Ayoko Boche. Zoom Lion wins heart of Museveni. Ugandan president directs KCCA to hand over landfill sites to Ghanaian conglomerate. So Zoom Lion is making waves in Uganda. Let's move on. The Inside newspaper says contention over 4 vacant seats. Speaker Bakbing throws out Supreme Court writ in clash of Amegaho versus Amegahoho. Interesting. Palestine must be free amidst ongoing bombardments and genocide. Ambassador cries out to the global community. Lack of trust in state security breeding party vigilante groups, as according to Ofuswan Pofo. Traders set to demonstrate against a Aflau Customs Section commander. And that's all there on the Inside newspaper. Let's move on to the New Crusading Guide. EC revises 2024 election ballot statistics for 20 polling stations. Dr. Banos slams Mahama over his abysmal growth rate record. Agnes Ofori Hospital slashes hernia surgery cost by 70%. And yeah, these are some of the stories that you see on the front page of the New Crusading Guide. Moving on from the New Crusading Guide to the Daily Graphic, Shelley Ayokoboche unveils vision for Commonwealth, prioritizes youth, democracy, and climate. You know, she's the new General Secretary of the Commonwealth. So, congratulations are in order to her. Bako conflict, parties suspend political campaigns. 39 days to elections, U.S. imposes visa restrictions, and the ban is targeting election troublemakers. So that's on the Daily Graphic newspaper. So that should do it for the newspaper headlines this morning. And make sure that you stay tuned. Coming up next is the breakfast review. And I'll always remind you that my suit this morning is by The Authentic Man. And like I'll always tell you, to get a very good suit for any occasion, for work, for a wedding, for an interview, or just a regular suit you want to be wearing on a daily basis, just get to The Authentic Man and he'll give you a nice suit. Contact The Authentic Man on 0243 029494, and The Authentic Man will sort you out with a very nice suit like you see me wearing this morning. Stay tuned. The breakfast review will be on when we return. Welcome back to GH Today here on GHOne TV. It's time for the breakfast review, but this is news that has just come in. Earlier, there were some unconfirmed reports that the founder and the flag bearer of the Ghana Freedom Party, Madam Akua Donkor, has passed on. And we're picking up more reports that she was taken to the Ridge Hospital, and in the very late hours of last night to this early morning, she passed on. That is information that we're getting from some family sources that Akua Donkor, who is on the ballot paper for this year's election on December 7, representing the Ghana Freedom Party. She's the leader and the founder of the Ghana Freedom Party, the flag bearer of the Ghana Freedom Party. She, like I said, found her way onto the ballot paper for this year's election. Unfortunately, the reports that we're picking up indicates that she has passed on. According to reports, she died at a Ridge Hospital while receiving treatment here in Accra on the evening of Monday, that is yesterday, October 28. The specific health condition that led to her unfortunate death remains unclear. We do not have those details yet. We know that she was 72 years old, and she was number 3, or she is number 3 on the ballot paper for this year's election. And we know that she was actively preparing for one of the most anticipated elections in Ghana's history. Unfortunately, with 39 days more to election 2024, she's passed on, and that's quite unfortunate. I mean, some of the things that she had promised included free vehicles for journalists, duty-free port services for the clearance of goods, free education, proper remuneration for farmers, and other policies that she aimed to implement if she's able to win the 2024 elections. We also know that she was quite the humorous character, would always make people laugh with her witty sense of humor. And unfortunately, this information or this news is coming in that the leader and the founder of the Ghana Freedom Party, Madam Akua Donkor, has passed on. And we say condolences to her family, and we continue to say that may her soul rest in peace. And so, if you're just tuning in, that is the latest news that is coming in, that Madam Akua Donkor of the Ghana Freedom Party, unfortunately, has passed on. So, you can get more on this when you visit our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and X, and also when you visit our website, starfm.com.gh. But the breakfast review is coming up, and my guests are joining me in the studio. So let's zoom right into the breakfast review segments. And so on the breakfast review this morning, 2 of my guests are already here in the studio. Mr. Kwame Jantua, you know, will always join us every Tuesday here on GH Today. And he's here in the studio this morning. He's a member of the Convention People's Party, and he's a legal practitioner as well. Mr. Jantua, good morning to you.
Morning.
Always good to see you on Tuesday morning.
Always good to see you. You're looking smart.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Your designer is really giving you some nice suits, but you're not sharing.
Oh, I always share every single morning. I always tell everybody where I get.
It's not sharing. You go, you buy one. Mr. Jantua, that they're telling me doesn't help me.
Well, then authentic man, please. We need to get Mr. Jantua a very nice
suit. But have we really turned the corner?
In terms of,
as the finance minister says.
Well, if the macroeconomic indicators are anything to go by,
Macroeconomic
and recent ratings agencies changing our outlook, to positive, if that is anything to go by, it's an indication that we are beginning to see some changes in the fortunes of Ghana's economy.
What's the dollar to the city?
Some forex bureaus, as at this morning, are selling the dollar at 17 Ghana cedis.
And what did the vice president say?
About what?
What did the vice president say about the exchange rate?
Well, that if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you.
And the dollar is going
Well,
up.
Christmas is
So we
coming.
are crossing the corner.
Well, Christmas is coming, and the elections are drawing near.
Let's go and deceive ourselves.
Issues
Let's
that
go
we
on
have
and
to deal
deceive
with.
ourselves.
These are cycles.
Let's go and deceive ourselves.
These are
But Mr. Johnson, I know
And you
Christmas
know
is coming. You know Christmas is coming.
Lantam, even before
He
you
said-
have
he said it's
you
like
introduced me.
Will he come
I've
down?
not introduced him yet. I'll introduce him
But
very
he's
soon.
coming himself.
It's cyclical.
Will he
So,
come down?
Mr. Jantua, I'm
dollar.
very
Will
calm.
he
You
come
know,
down?
Oh, well,
After
we've
Christmas,
gotten
will
to
he
a
come
point
down?
where the dollar has risen to astronomical
Why-
levels
why-
and has come
why
down
should-
before. We've seen that before.
We need to get to a point where the dollar is stable.
we will get there.
When?
We will get there.
When 8 years.
Vote for
8 years.
Vote for
Look,
Dr.
don't
Mahmoud
even
Bawumia.
go down that line.
Vote for Dr. Mahmoud.
The man is in power. He's in power.
He is not in power.
He's in power.
He is not in
He's
power.
not the vice president.
He is a vice president.
He's not the
but
vice
he is not in
president.
power.
What do you mean he's not in power?
He is not in power.
How
Of
can
course,
you
we run an
how can you
executive
deny
presidency.
how can you deny someone who has been voted for that is not in power? How?
We
Go
run an
on and deceive
executive
yourself.
presidency.
Go on and deceive
Article
yourselves.
59 of the Constitution.
Go on
You
and
know it,
deceive
Mr.
yourselves. It's the people's pocket that will vote whoever into power this election. Go on and deceive
The
yourselves.
people will keep faith with the New
Go on
Patriotic
and
Party because
deceive
they know that
yourselves.
they're capable. They know where the reins.
I said
they know
go
where we
on
took this
and
country from,
deceive
and where,
yourselves.
given the headwinds,
Wait,
they know where we have brought
how
the
can
country.
how can you come into power
Yeah.
and tell us that there's no money in the coffers? The coffers are empty.
Evidently,
You are going out of power, the coffers are still empty.
the coffers
How?
are not empty. That's
Eh,
not what
we
you're
have
saying.
money.
Nobody is saying
We
today
have
that
money.
the coffers are empty.
We have money.
We have gone through
I
some
said
very
we have
trying
money.
times.
Go ahead.
We have
I
gone
said
through some
go
trying
ahead.
times, and
Go ahead.
evidently,
Deceive
we are
yourselves.
turning the corner.
I said, what corner?
Huh?
You can't tell us you are
That's what
turning the
Lantam
corner.
was saying. All the
how
macroeconomic
many
conditions
months
have fallen in
back?
place.
How many months
Of
back?
course, it's not an
Fourier
event.
test term. We are turning the corner. We are turning the corner. We are still turning the corner. It's 42 days
It
to
is not
election.
an event.
Go
It's
ahead.
a process. And the
39 days.
people,
39 days. Go ahead.
yes, the people will
Go
keep faith
ahead.
with us. Trust me.
Go ahead.
They have shown evidently.
Evidently where?
Evidently.
The ordinary man cannot
The
afford 3
people
square
of Ghana
meals a
watching
day.
us this morning.
I said, the ordinary man cannot afford 3 square meals a day. That doesn't bother you.
Has it ever happened in Ghana before?
Listen.
Is it the first time?
I forget the first time.
Okay,
You were
then.
voted into power to take over and make the country better.
The
Have you been able to make the country better?
struggles and the
Common
headwinds
street
we
lights.
have dealt with.
Common street lights on roads, you can't do it.
Oh, come on.
Travel our roads.
Come on.
Travel our roads.
Come on.
Travel our roads.
Come on, Mr. Johnson.
What do you call it? Motorway. Tin.
You know
Bank
there's
of Ghana
construction
Road.
works
Tin.
happening on the motorway.
Oh, please,
You
before-
know there is
since
construction works happening.
Since construction work started, there was no lights. How can you
What
be
do you want
driving
us
on
to
the
do?
road at
What do you
night,
want
no
us
lights?
to do when
Potholes
construction is
everywhere.
happening?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The motorway today
Go
is in a
ahead.
better
And you
state
see-
than
and
it
you
was
see- and you
years
see-
ago.
You see, Lantam, that's what pains me. That's what pains me. You came into power with majority support. Even those who didn't support you supported you. And you're leaving power is worse.
We're not
and you're
leaving
telling me
power.
you're turning,
We're here.
you're turning. Let's see.
We are here. We're
Go
winning the
ahead.
elections.
But Mr. Johnson,
ahead.
are
We
you,
have won
are you
elections.
minded?
You're not
Are you
leaving power.
minded about government's constant explanation about certain circumstances beyond our control that plunged the economy into a ditch that we are recovering from?
Not just this Ghanaian
I mean,
economy,
you know-
the global economy.
You know
The global economy.
the overemphasized issue of COVID-19, which indeed
Lantam,
did
I don't think
happen.
it's overemphasized.
And
It's a reality.
Russia's war in Ukraine,
It's a reality
Please
that
don't
we
go
have
there.
had
which
to
also
deal with.
happened,
Please don't go there.
which together
Please don't go
resulted
there.
in Ghana's economy plunging.
Wait.
And then now
Wait.
we have to claw our
Okay,
way
listen,
out of
let
the
me ask you-
doldrums that the
let me ask
economy
you a
is in.
question.
Lantam,
Well, that's what the
you know
government
even
has
introduced
always
me
said.
last time,
When
you
we
know.
were going out there,
Lantam,
when we were going
I
out
didn't
there,
introduce you.
Yes, of course, I mean.
I'll introduce you.
when we were going out there to take bonds, to take loans, to cover a naked city, was that COVID? Was that Ukraine war? Huh? Was that COVID? Was that Ukraine war? When we were going out there, when the World Bank and the IMF were warning us, Ghana, be careful of your debt level. Did we listen? What did we say? We are proud people.
You know,
we can do it.
Every time we have gone to the Euro market,
when we're supposed to now go,
we have taken a prospectus.
Please let me finish. Let me finish.
Every time.
Please let me finish. Don't interrupt me. When we were now supposed to go in January of 2022 or when? So, we are proud people. We are proud people. We are not supposed to do this. We won't go to IMF. And it exacerbated. That was the word.
But for what transpired in Parliament?
Oh, please.
But for what transpired in Parliament? If government programs had been approved by the Parliament of Ghana, which would have enabled us to get local funding for our economy, look, we wouldn't have waited 6, 7, 8 months before plunging into that.
The finance minister has gone to IMF. He's telling us that the DPP has saved Ghana X amount of money. 12 billion.
And the breakdown is there.
What about the people who have suffered it?
We have appealed.
All right. At this point in time, hold on for me, Mr. Jantua. At this point in time, I think that it's only appropriate that I introduce the Honorable Hussein Issa.
Hello.
Yes, good morning to you.
Good morning,
even before I introduce you, you jumped into the conversation.
Uncle
you didn't allow Mr. Jantua to finish.
Of course, you've always been my uncle, man.
He was making his preliminary comments. He would have landed nicely and then he would have come. You didn't let him finish. And then you turned it into a banter.
The
Honorable Hussein Issa is a bona fide member of the New Patriotic Party.
Thank you.
He is the former member of Parliament for the GHOne North constituency, and we're happy to have him here in the studio. Honorable
Lantam, good to be back on this set.
Yes, we've missed you.
It's been a while, and it's always a pleasure to be here. And let me say a good morning to your viewers, and a very, very big morning to my big brother.
Morning.
Mr. Kwame Jantua, good morning to you.
Yeah.
You see, this whole issues of the economy, it's true. I mean, we concede that we have had to go through some very trying times. But that notwithstanding, let's also put this in perspective. I'm talking about the economy we inherited in 2017. You could recollect every time we had spoken with our friends on the other side, the NDC, they will have a reference point of 2011 where this economy grew by 14%. I mean, new oil, new investment, and all of that. And I mean, the data is there for us to see. From that level, we were in a decline. So 2017, when we took it, it was the first time we grew this economy.
But that was also projected, was it not? It was projected.
You see,
even before you came into office, in 2017, it was projected that the economy was going to grow. And indeed, it did happen. And you also acknowledge that it was still under an IMF program that you came into office and extended.
I was a member of Parliament in 2019. In November, the minister had brought his budget to Parliament. We had passed the budget for 2020. In February 2020, COVID struck, and the global economy was shut, including Ghana. Things happen, and when you are at the helm of affairs of an economy, there's so many factors and so many happening at the same time that you have to manage. At the time that we passed the budget for 2020, nobody, not even the multinationals who have complicated models on their performances and all of that, nobody had projected that the global economy was going to be shut. So until some of these things happen, until they become historical, there's very little that you can say. As we sit today, we're not too sure what's going to happen within the next hour, the next day. But it is a reality that anybody who finds himself in the saddle managing a country, managing an economy like ours, we have to deal with.
What do you say to people who say that in spite of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a lot of money that Ghana got, you know, from the World Bank, from other donors,
we got
so much money, which was more than enough to deal with the losses that we may have encountered because of the lockdowns and the shutdowns and all of that. So people are asking, you got all of this money, what do we have to show for it?
When COVID was happening,
and it's more of an issue of mismanagement of the economy, excessive borrowing, and other factors that has led to us being here, not necessarily the pandemic.
When COVID was happening, I was privileged. I was privileged at the time. When COVID was happening, I was privileged at the time to be representing the people of Okankwe.
Yes, you were in Parliament.
When this whole thing started, by January of 2020, by February of 2020, there were projections that if care was not taken, because nobody understood how the virus was going to behave, in Africa and in the developing world, we're going to pick up dead bodies on the streets by June. The president of our republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, spared nothing. He did everything because his object was to preserve lives. So he was going to do everything necessary. I recollect one of the first sources of funding was from the BOG. When this economy had not gone back to the central bank to borrow a dime in 3 years, because COVID struck, we needed emergency funding. And so we had to resort to the central bank. We did things that had never been done before because we're in a situation that had not been recorded in living memory. We gave free water, electricity was slashed, we employed more health workers. We gave incentives to the health sector. Public sector workers stayed at work or stayed on their payroll, although the economy was shut. Schools were shut for close to a year. Teachers were paid constantly. In other jurisdictions, what happened?
How many regions were shut?
In other jurisdictions,
how many regions were shut? Was the entire Ghana shut?
Schools were shut in Ghana for a year.
Regions? How many regions?
When you talk about the close down, then the close down you could refer to maybe Greater Accra, the Greater Accra, and then somewhere in Ashanti region.
Go ahead.
But schools were shut.
Go ahead.
In this country for close to a year.
Go ahead.
Every public worker got their full salary. Some were even incentivized to come back. We employed more health workers just to ensure that we preserve lives. And we told the people of Ghana, and the president was quoted copiously across the globe, that we're going to do everything to preserve lives. But I mean, we had shown by our record that we knew how to fix the economy. So notwithstanding how the economy got into whatever situation the economy got into, whatever situation we are seeing. In December 2022, inflation was way above 50%. Continuously, we've seen the decline in inflation.
What is inflation today?
Admittedly, the currency would have been better.
What did the IMF?
Obviously, Mr. Nyantoye was referring to a point in time when government had taken 8 programs to the Parliament of Ghana, but because they were playing politics, just as they're doing today.
You're always blaming somebody. You never take blame.
So is that the reason
always
why?
Blaming somebody.
These are factual.
Always blaming somebody. You never
when you
take blame.
Take your budget to Parliament, right? There are 2 sides of it: the inflows and the outflows. And if the outflows are there, and you're still paying public workers, you still keep the system running. But the inflows are not there. Certainly, there will be something wrong.
Why
and it took 6, 7, 8 months for us to get out of Parliament just because somebody was playing politics.
We know that your government said the e-levy was essentially going to be the solution to all of Ghana's problems financially, and there was not a lot of support for the e-levy at the time, and you blame your inability to pass the e-levy on time to some of the woes that we are faced with. But the evidence on the ground, even after the passage of the e-levy, suggests that it wasn't very popular anyway, and it really wasn't going to do what you intended it to do. I mean, the jury is out there on that, isn't it?
Time is of essence with all of this. And things happen. When it happens at the right time, its effect is different from when it happens at the wrong time.
But you know, at the time, a lot of Ghanaians were not happy about the e-levy. And even after it was passed, people were finding all ways and means to avoid paying the e-levy. And now we know the statistics as far as the e-levy and the revenue that the e-levy has raked in is concerned. And it's really not what we were expecting it to be.
I'm yet to see a government...
To the extent that now people are promising, including the flag of your party, to scrap the e-levy and all of these other levies.
Of course, that's his on record prior to the e-levy, what his vision is. and it just fits into what we were talking about a moment ago. He had expressed how he feels and what he thinks this whole virtual financial system should be run. That's his vision. When he becomes president, that's the way he
becomes president.
Yes, when
he's in the seat.
When he becomes president,
in the seat.
Of course, we want an executive president,
but he's
I don't know why.
the head
He's
of the
part
economic
of the
management
team.
team, isn't it? So these things are under
we
his
keep
purview.
saying this. We keep saying this.
It's not true.
Lantam. The cabinet of Ghana
Yes.
is a creation of the constitution. The constitution gives us the maximum number of cabinet ministers. Even cabinet is advisory to the president. Per the constitution we run. Even cabinet,
What did the
which
president
is
tell
a
us?
creation of the
What did
constitution,
the president
is
tell
advisory.
us?
How much more EMT?
What does President tell us 2016?
Even cabinet, which is a creation
Please.
of the constitution,
Stop giving excuses.
it's advisory.
Stop giving excuses.
When I was in parliament, look,
Stop giving excuses.
there were documents that would come from the presidency, which was signed with executive authority.
What did the
And it was legal.
What did the president
We
tell
have
us?
voted for a president who is in power. His vision, and typically like the free SHS. I tell you, the president's belief in how it should be run, it's how it's been run. Anybody who comes with any view that is contrary,
is that to say that
it is
the vice president was not very effective as head of economic management team?
I am saying that.
Because he was not in charge.
I am saying that.
When the man who appointed him head of the economic management team, Honorable Fuseni Issa, told each and every hold on. The president told Ghanaians.
Yeah.
He's the economic guru.
The economy,
of course, that is true, and it is true today.
Says the economy.
If it was true then, it is true today.
The president told every Ghanaian that the economy is in the hands of Dr. Bawumia. That is why he's bringing Dr. Bawumia from the Bank of Ghana to come and run the economy. So if the president has told every Ghanaian that this is the man that I'm bringing in to run the economy, so vote for me.
He's not in power.
When you vote for me, he's the one who will run the economy. And he's head of the economic management team. And now the economy is in a state which leaves much to be desired. And then we are pointing fingers at the man who is running the economy as the head of the economic management team. Then we are saying, well, he was not really in charge, and it's advisory, and the EMT is advisory.
We are not just saying it's advisory.
What do you want Ghanaians to think?
We are not just saying it's advisory, but I'm telling you.
That's what you said.
I'm not just saying that.
Okay.
He said he's not in power. He said he's not in power.
Which is a creation of the constitution. It's advisory to
blame it on the constitution.
So notwithstanding.
So what is the point that you are trying to make? That because he was not in charge, he's not the one who is making the decisions.
He said he's not in charge
of the economy, which has resulted in where we are. Is that what you're trying to say?
There is collective responsibility. If I sit in cabinet and cabinet takes a decision, notwithstanding what my personal thoughts are or views are, if the collective decision is that we should go this way, I am part of it.
That means the president is stubborn.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia,
president is stubborn.
He is not running away from the record of this government. He still stands by it and challenges. And defense.
Mr. Jantua, please allow Honorable Fuseni Issa to make the point. Please allow him.
I think it's painful.
No, please allow him to make the point. I'll come back to you, Honorable Jantua. Yes, Honorable, please.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has never run away from the record of this government. I keep saying, right, given the headwinds or the challenges that we have had to contend with over the last 8 years, given the challenges that we had to contend with, external factors that have affected us, and it is not the case that we have overemphasized the effect of COVID or the effect
but
of
looks like every war of this economy is attributed to
every economy in this world, on this globe, on earth, was ravaged by these two situations. And of course, you see, in our case,
but we got a lot of money.
In our case,
over $1 billion.
In our case,
over $1 billion in support for COVID-19 was.
I'll be very happy if you allow me.
No, I want you to bring all of that into it, right?
In our case, what actually made our situation even worse is that, look, you can recollect in 2020, 2017 or 2016, the last State of the Nation address by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, then as President of the Republic, he had told us that, look, we're running an economy where 3 line items on our budget, right? Public sector wages, our debt obligations, payments, and its interest. And there was a third one, the transfers to statutory funds.
Yeah.
Takes virtually all the revenues that come to government. So for you to be able to do anything else in this country beyond servicing this 3 line items.
Today you know how to refer to Mahama.
Of course.
Today you know how to refer to Mahama. What about your own? Don't refer to him.
No, I am situating the situation. I'm putting this.
You say he's a useless man. You say he's incompetent. Don't refer to what he says. Tell us what you're doing.
He's incompetent.
Tell us that is what you said. He's incompetent. Why are you referring to him?
It's not a. Why should I refer to him?
Let's put that aside.
Why should we put that? I'm putting that in context.
Where is Cocoa today?
I am putting that in context.
Where is Cocoa today?
Mr. Jantua,
I am putting that in context. We are not the only producers of cocoa.
Allow honorable
Next Ivory Coast produces
please.
Next Ivory Coast produces cocoa. How is the industry doing? How is the output?
Please land on your point. Land on your point.
And so I'm putting this in context that
land on the point.
What even made the situation severe is the structure of the economy that we were running in this country. 3 line items, everything is taken away. So when you're hit by a calamity like COVID and all of that, then you have to go scrambling for everything to preserve lives. At the time, we had told Ghanaians that, look, notwithstanding the impact of that particular event on the economy, we will preserve lives and then we will fix the economy. And it's very evident.
Has the economy been fixed?
Relatively, our currency has been stable. Relatively. Given what we experienced in 2022 when we were coming directly out of COVID. I mean, given the growth rates, given the employment opportunities, everything is getting back on strides. And based on that, I'm telling Ghanaians that, look, even within the most difficult times in living memory, we have come out and we are getting back But
you talk about the currency being relatively stable when the US dollar this morning.
You collect
when the Ghana cedi this morning is selling at 17 cedis at some forex bureau to the US dollar.
And I keep saying
that's high, isn't
it? We are in the fourth quarter. Yeah. We are in the fourth quarter. You see?
So how do you convince anybody out there that you are doing well when the currency is running all over the place? You say that it's relatively stable.
At a point around December 2022, it was worse. We saw our currency depreciate by close to 50% in 2022. Yeah. Right? Uh-huh. In 2022.
And we are in 2024.
2024.
And it is still depreciating.
But that's why I said relatively.
Okay.
And we have professed how we are going to do this and our debt structures that we've put in place and all of that. I mean, given the benefit we've had from our debt exchange program, given that we have told Ghanaians that, look, we've gotten to a point where let's share the burden. It's a painful exercise, but hey, today we are reaping the benefits as a nation. What use would it be if you had everything in a collapsed country?
Okay.
Or in a collapsed economy?
All right, very well. Today,
you haven't given me a chance to respond. You told me to keep quiet. Let me respond.
Mr. Jantua. So I want us to dovetail into because these issues are
just a minute.
Mr. Jantua, hold on, Mr. Jantua. These issues are tied, together, because now there are Dumso issues.
Let me respond to him and then we'll come to
Dumso issues.
Let me respond to him, then we'll come to Dumso.
Shutting down 12 billion. It's all tied in, Mr. Jantua, if you will allow me.
No. Let me
12
let
billion
me
DDEP savings and all of that.
Let me answer him specifically.
Yes.
Lantam.
No, Mr. Jantua, yes.
Mr. Jantua,
when they came in 2017, $100,000 was how much? 100,000 cedis in dollars was how much? When they came in 2017, how much was it? Today,
$100,000 was about
100,000 cedis was how much?
100,000 cedis.
Yes, when they came in 2017.
If you have 100,000, I know if you had $100,000, that was equivalent to about 400,000 cedis.
I said cedis. 100,000 cedis was how much in dollars? Today, 100,000 cedis, how much in dollars? It's only $6,000. Only $6,000. What can that do? What can that do? When they came,
relatively, we are saying
stop the relatively, stop the English,
Honorable
stop
Hussein,
the
allow
English,
Mr.
because
Allow
stop
Mr.
the English.
Johnson.
When you're
Allow
talking, I
Mr.
was quiet.
Oh no, you weren't quiet.
Listen,
Mr. Kwamjato, you weren't quiet.
Listen.
Mr. Kwamjato, you weren't quiet when I was
Where
speaking.
is cocoa today? Look, there are three major areas where we get revenue: cocoa, gold, and oil. Where is cocoa today? Where is oil today? Where is gold today? If for nothing at all, oil brings money in quickly. Since 2016, they came 8 years. Have we discovered exploration to production? Have we done anything? Has revenue come in? The kind of revenue that's coming from the oil industry. Do we not owe the oil industry? Do we not owe them? Hence the challenges we are going through. Do we not owe them? And then they are telling us what? Cocoa, that has been a mainstay in this country. The quantum, hasn't it halved? It's only 400,000 tons we are doing a year. Before, how much were we doing?
Check next door.
And who? Oh, forget next door. I'm talking about Ghana. You get up and you compare.
At Ghana,
Oh, please,
Ghana,
please.
we are the only case.
Listen.
Check next door in Ivory Coast.
Cote d'Ivoire's production is higher than ours. If for nothing at all.
Of
Even
course.
if it's by one pot,
course.
it's higher than ours.
course.
They are making more money than we are making. The revenue they are getting, we don't get that
Their
kind of
production
revenue.
is almost half that as well.
Please,
Their production is almost
I
halved.
don't mind. Do
We
know?
have no control of some of these factors.
Wait. You came in and you told us, production to what? What did they say? What was the term they
From
used?
taxation
From
to
taxation to
production.
production.
Yeah.
What have they done?
Given that we
Do you
didn't
know?
expect.
Please, do you know?
One day, one else, look at the impact on the economy.
Please. Do you know that Cote d'Ivoire is the second largest producer of pineapples? Second largest producer. And I'll tell you, our pineapple is far better than Cote d'Ivoire's. What have we done to our pineapple industry? What have we done?
You see,
taxation to production.
You know the impact. The impact of the change.
Please, when you were talking, I was quiet.
Oh, you weren't quiet.
I was
Why
quiet.
are you saying that? You weren't quiet when I was talking.
No. He told me to keep quiet. I kept quiet.
You weren't quiet.
I was quiet. Huh? You said taxation to production. Where's the taxation to production? Show us. Agriculture-wise.
Well, when they came, there were
is
some
an
taxes that they
agrarian-
abolished.
It's an agrarian country.
There are some taxes that were abolished.
Which one? And
that
how
they
many-
called
and how many did
nuisance
they-
taxes?
how many did
when
they bring
when they
in?
came into office?
They gave us the impression that they weren't bringing taxes, they weren't going to rely on taxes. How much taxes did they bring in? Today, the port, you rent, you what you call it? You order, you buy a car. You are paying nearly 3/4 the price of the car in duty. And where's the money going to come from? Because you people, you have the money, you have the largesse, you know what you can do. So you can't be bothered about the people you are ruling. You are now coming back to us to tell us what? To vote for you. And you say, Vice President Bamia is not part of government. What is he?
I have never said it.
You just said it today, just now.
I have not said.
So let's go on.
That was
Over
not my
to you,
words.
Lantam.
I
But
didn't
that's
say
not what
that.
he said. He
I
said,
didn't say
Vice
that.
President Bami, there's collective responsibility.
No.
And he has
he said
never
that.
run away
He
from
said
the
that.
When
record of this.
when I started, he said he's not in power.
Yeah,
I
he
said he
he's
was
not
in power.
power.
He said he's not in power.
Well,
He
he's
said
not the president.
He said he's not. Whatever the case is,
He's
he's
not the
part
president.
of
We
the
run an
team.
executive-
He's part
executive
and parcel
president.
of the team. It's teamwork. If Akufo-Addo fails, he has failed. If Akufo-Addo does right, he has done right.
Come on.
So he cannot cut himself out of it.
Come on, lawyer.
He
Come
cannot.
on, lawyer. Come on.
Let's go on.
Come on.
Let's
come
go on. It's up to
on.
Ghanaians. 7 June, 7 December, it's up to Ghanaians. But right now, when you ask the ordinary Ghanaian on the streets, he will tell you, I can't make ends meet. And that is where the crux of the matter is.
In all
All
of
right.
this.
At
in all
this
of
point
this.
in time,
all of
our
this.
third guest is joining us, but he's joining us via Zoom. He is the Honourable Member of Parliament for the Pru East constituency, the Honourable Dr. Akua Donkor. He's also former Power Minister, and he's been on the Zoom for quite some time now. Doc, good morning. Welcome to GH Today here on GHOne TV.
Good morning and good morning to your listeners.
Thank you very much for joining us. I believe that you've been, following some of the banter that has been going on in the studio between Honorable Hussein Issa and Mr. Kwame Jantwa here. I mean, in your preliminary comments, you care to comment on some of the issues?
Well, I can only say that the Ghanaian economy is facing extreme challenge. The economy is nothing to write home about. The macroeconomic instability, especially monetary instability, has had a debilitating effect on virtually every sector of the economy. The sector most impacted by our monetary instability has been the energy sector. If you look at the ECG 2023 financials, for example, out of the 10.2 billion cedi loss ECD recorded in 2023, 8.2 billion of the loss is attributable to exchange losses. And that, for me, is very telling. If you look at Glyco's receivables, its current asset receivables of about 4.2 billion in their 2023 financials, they've had to provision over 2 billion cedis because of challenges with general liquidity in the energy sector arising out of the difficulty of ECG in making ends meet. So we live in a very challenging economy. There is no doubt about it. And the managers of the economy will have to take responsibility for the state of near meltdown in which we are.
Right, I mean, but they talk about the other external factors that have, affected the economy. Very well documented: COVID, Russia's war on Ukraine, and other factors that have resulted in where we are now. But in spite of all of that, they've been able to work to turn the economy around. Now, some of our macroeconomic indicators are looking good. Some of the ratings agencies which downgraded us are beginning to give Ghana a positive outlook, among other things. And so based on these factors, they say that the economy is turning the corner and we're beginning to improve.
You see, the excuse of externality is very unfair to the intelligence of the Ghanaian. We don't live in an island. The whole of the African region, and especially the South-West African region, has been impacted by the same externalities. And yet we have other economies doing far better than we are doing. To the extent that, notwithstanding the military and security instability in in Burkina Faso, we still troop to Burkina Faso to buy food items. I mean, Côte d'Ivoire, take the oil services sector in Ghana, almost all of them have migrated to Côte d'Ivoire. And so, using COVID, using other externalities, such as the Russia-Ukraine war, it's neither here nor there. It did not just impact on Ghana, impacted that. It was even shameful that to go to Ukraine to grant in from Ukraine, a country that is at the center of the war. So that is wrong. The real issue is that we have failed in our macroeconomic management, and especially monetary policy. We perform so abysmally that whatever little gains we have made here or there do not compensate for the abysmal failure in the macroeconomy. Today, the cedi is hovering around 16.7 cedis to a dollar. I mean, how can you carry out any meaningful planning, let alone payment regime at that rate? And that rate arises largely out of our overborrowing, domestic borrowing, and our inability to service even domestic debts to this extent that we had to take haircuts. And then how do you, having taken a haircut less than 2 years ago, and if you look at the financials of companies, a number of them are still feeling the effects of that, the DDEP. So how do you get up and say, oh, the economy is doing well?
Well, very recently, the finance minister in the U.S. has been, celebrating the DDEP, speaking to the fact that the country has been saved about $12 billion through the domestic debt exchange program, and so it was a necessity. It's been a success, and the country has made significant savings because of the DDEP, and so it's not something that was bad.
You see, if you take away from the Ghanaian his income source, his savings to the tune of $12 billion, should we sing your praises or should sing your dirges? Do we sing your praises or should we sing dirges? Basically, you are taking away from the Ghanaian his saving, his hard-earned saving, his investment, and you want us to clap for you for doing that? What warped logic is that?
But was it not necessary, considering the situation that we found ourselves in, being unable to service some of our debts, considering the fact that our economy was plunging? Was it not necessary for us to engage in an exercise like that in order to give Ghana a certain cushion that we can begin to build on to revive the economy?
If you self-inflict, and then you put a bandage on your self-inflicted wound, do we applaud you for having the sense to put a bandage on the wound? No. You see, why can't we be truthful? Why can't we just say, look, we got into a mess, we take responsibility for the mess, but going forward, we will not repeat the beneficiaries of borrowing. Did they take haircuts? Companies such as Enterprise and other entities who were involved in facilitating loans in the bond issue and others, did they take haircuts? Did they return part of their profits?
Well, all right. Let's dovetail into the conversation about what's happening in the energy sector. We know that Sono Naksogli has shut down, but government is through the finance minister is recently telling us that they are trying to reach a certain agreement, or they have reached an agreement with Sono Naksogli. But because of previous agreements that they had, Sono Naksogli acted in bad faith. And they shouldn't have shut down. They should have kept faith with the government, and government was already on the way to paying them, or having a payment plan with regard to the over $200 million, about $256 million that is owed Sono Naksogli. Before I come back to my guest here in the studio, Dr. Akua Donkor, you are very well versed in the power sector. This issue with Sono Naksogli, and of course the issues that we're facing in the power sector. Recently, we are beginning to witness some power outages here and there. What is happening?
Basically, we are shedding load, but we don't even have the courage to say we are shedding load.
And what is causing that load shedding? Is it because of the Sono Naksogli shutdown?
Yeah, that is part, but Sono Naksogli shutdown alone should not lead us to shed load if we have the excess capacity they claim we have. It's all back to the financials. Do we have the wherewithal to provide the necessary fuel supply? Do we have what it takes? We don't. For example, let's look at ECG collections. if ECG collected 800, even 1 billion 3 months ago, that 1 billion was equivalent to a certain amount. Today, BCG collects 1 billion. It will be less than what it was 3 months ago. So until we really get a handle on the exchange rate deterioration, remember that the energy sector is probably more dependent on the exchange rate than any other sector. So if we had a stable exchange rate regime, we could plan ahead. If we had a stable exchange rate regime, the rigidity of pricing and supply would have been removed. So, and that boils down, that comes right at the doorstep of the Ministry of Finance and Bank of Ghana. So if any two institutions have let this country down, it will be the Ministry of Finance and Bank of Ghana. And that therefore denies the Ministry of Finance any moral right to criticize a creditor who says he can no longer operate arising out of non-payment. How many times hasn't the Minister for Finance announced that he has reached a deal? He has restructured our debt to the energy sector. What has been signed off? You see, in business or in management, negotiation is not the same as having signed off a deal. Can the Minister of Finance tell us what exactly they have signed off with the entities? The fact that we are talking to them and piling new debts whilst talking, it's neither here nor there. We have to show commitment. If you renege on promises, if you renege on so-called agreements, who is going to take you serious? We're in a financial crisis. We have a crisis. We all must admit that we have a crisis. PR or papering over the crisis is not going to help. I expect that I'm going to face a lot more of these challenges in the next 12 to 24 weeks, because we are not paying enough. Exchange rate is making our ability to pay even less dependent.
Right.
We have. ECG has it, no doubt it. The magnitude. Yeah.
Right.
I thought you were coming in.
Yes. The network was misbehaving a little bit, but I think it's back now. But I'll come back to you. But let me come to my guests in the studio for them to also chip in with this. Coming to you, Mr. Janto, of course, you also have some working knowledge of how the energy sector, looks like. This whole issue with Sono Nasogli and the energy sector and these recent power outages, that we've been having. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, the finance minister shouldn't have said what he said in America, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? He should have just said, we are still in discussion with Sonia Sogle, and left it at that. All this thing about bad faith. Look, Sonia Sogle is one of the energy companies who have been very considerate in their dealings with government. Check. Very considerate. They haven't even sent the invoice for, what do you call it, accrued capacity charges. They haven't even sent that invoice to government as yet. And they were still dealing with government.
Capacity charges.
Yes.
What do you mean?
And look, in terms of what is owed them, do you know that their debt, because of lack of payment, their debt is risen by 23%? How do they survive? How do they survive? And I take it that because we have somebody who thinks Ghana, feels Ghana deserves energy. It's not a privilege, it's a right. They are always making concessions for government. Always making concessions. Look, check all the generating companies, IPPs, and see out of all of them, which one makes concessions with government. And they tell you that you owe us. At least pay us something. Show us something. And the finance minister goes abroad and he talks them down. I would have said, look, we are still in negotiation with Asogli. Left it at that. Don't go any further to say they were unfair or they not on an international stage. What are you trying to tell them? What are you trying to tell the world? This current Dumso, so-called current Dumso, it's got to do with debt. It's got to do with debt. Doesn't government owe the oil company? There are two. Oh, why have I forgotten the name of the name of our oil company? What is it called? Talo Oil.
Your oil company.
I don't have.
Well, Talo Oil is not our oil company. I was about to say GMPC.
Whatever the case is, they are operating. They are operating on our behalf.
Yes.
Do we not owe them?
Yeah, we do.
Have we paid them? Do we not owe ENI for gas? Have we paid them? Have we, at the present moment, do we not have gas that, look, Ghana has huge capacity in terms of gas. And because we haven't done exploration to production in 8 years, the gas supply we have is decreasing. And we owe also. And isn't it a question of sitting down and even start paying gradually? At the present moment, we haven't paid our debts to Talo. We haven't paid our debts to ENI. How do you expect to be able to maintain your electricity when your source, your feed source is gas? And when you don't have gas, you need to find money to buy fuel to generate. Is it not important to us? Or is it because the powers that be, when Dumso happens, it doesn't affect them? It's okay.
Come on, Mr. Jantua.
So it's okay.
Come on.
Because when you look at the debt in the energy sector, and you see, this is why I say it is painful. You know why it's painful? Because they came in promising us the world, promising us to take over and do right things by Ghanaians.
They have kept the lights on.
Please.
The lights have been on.
Let me tell you something. My father always told me, Kwame, it is not the beginning, it's not the midpoint, it's how you end. Your tenure is coming to an end. What is the situation like? We are beginning to experience bits of brownouts, Dumso, here and there. Come out and tell us something. And that is the one thing this government does not do well on: communication. The moment it happens, tell us. The moment it happens, tell us. Why? So that we can also plan. Today you be sitting. Last Friday, I was in the office, lights out for nearly 6-7 hours. Couldn't do nothing. Productivity down. And if we have a challenge with gas, come out and tell us, guys. We have ABCDE. We have challenges with gas, so we won't be able to do XYZ. However, this is what we are doing to help the problem. Have they told us anything? We always sit down, you and I and him, We will sit down. Is Dumso coming? You've said it today. Is Dumso coming? Is Dumso coming? Communicate to us. Tell us. This is the situation. Because we know, Lantam, without energy, a country is dead. In today's world, without energy, a country is dead. And inasmuch as we are doing renewables, are we doing renewables in such a way that residential is taken care of? I would have thought government to bring in a policy when they came 2016, bring a policy because of the way our energy sector is in terms of supply of electricity and the challenges we have. We want every building to have a solar panel. Whatever the case is, if government even has to subsidize, let's subsidize so that every building has a solar panel. What does that mean? You can generate your own electricity. It moves conventional power into other areas. But even if there's doomsday on conventional power, at least you still have some source of electricity. Have they done it? Okay, let's say, even if it's not residential, hospitals, schools, hotels, places like that, policy, all hospitals, schools, all these institutions that help the people, let's have solar panels on them. So that if for nothing at all, somebody gets sick, it's not a question of electricity going off in the hospital, they can switch on their solar panel. Have we done it? And you know the energy sector is stranded with debt. It's stranded with debt. Won't you try and do something to cushion? Have they done something to cushion?
Right.
And we are now getting into another, if for nothing at all, mini kind of doomsday because of our gas supply.
Let me bring in Honorable Hussein Isa now. You say you have kept the lights on.
Yeah, we have.
I mean, but there are all of these issues in the energy sector. Some things that we have really not been told. I mean, Dr. Akua Donkor says that this is load shedding that is happening, just that it's not been announced. Obviously, the issues with Sono Nasogli, is causing it. There are issues with gas supply and all of that.
Lantam, there are two announcements that I vividly can recollect. GridCo putting out an announcement that there were challenges with gas supply a couple of days ago.
Yes.
When Asogli shut down, there was a public announcement. There's in the public space to that extent. So I don't know by which measure or which sort of communication that Mr. Jantua is looking for that he's not getting. I am thinking that with this Asogli issue, right in there, right in,
with regard to
of course,
we know who is going to go off when, how much load is going to share, who is going to be affected.
At every point
at least
in
the
time,
people need to know that, don't they?
At every point in time, we know what our peak demand is. We know what our installed capacity is. If you take Asogli, which produces about between 12 and 15% of our energy supplies, it means that there will be a shortfall. And when there's a shortfall, there's a way we can go. In the same
shouldn't
time,
that be announced? Isn't that no effect?
I read
No, I'm talking about how that is going to affect the power distribution. Say there are some areas that are going to experience
when Asogli
shutdown or no power. Let's say between this hour and this hour and that hour, right? Is that not important?
Lantam, when Asogli shuts down, quickly there were attempts to bridge the gap in our demand. So other plants, same power, there's another one, bridge power, were bought online. Our beds, they might not even have the capacity of 560. There's still the attempt to bridge whatever gap.
Not enough.
Oh, Mr. Jantua. Should I give you my time?
No, Honorable, please carry on with your point. Yes.
You see?
450 megawatts.
And we lost 560 from Asogli, right? And so we are plugging that in. So we lost 560. We've gotten 450 from just Sen. And then other one like Bridgewater, I'm not too sure what the capacity is. So let us finish with all that possibilities. If it is going to be something of a more permanent or of a longer term, then we can come on. But immediately, there are attempts to bridge in. Meanwhile, Government is still talking to Asogli. In fact, this morning I heard on another network that a resolution had been arrived between Asogli and government to get Asogli back online. And so what is the haste? Why is Mr. Jantua expecting that we come and announce something that we are trying to resolve? Thankfully, this morning, I have heard on another network that whatever the problem was between Asogli and the finance ministry or government for that matter, whether it was 30 million, whether it was 60 million, whether there was an agreement that had to be signed, all of this thing has been resolved. And so we are back on stream. And for those who think that they want to see the lights off, I'm sorry to say, like we've done in the last 8 years, the lights will be kept on. We have shown that whatever it took, given the exposure, even the exchange rate losses the doctor mentioned, we know there are inherent issues with the energy sector. Revenue collection is being, and when we talk, one bit, I am not an expert in the energy sector. I am just a layman. But even the losses from generation to consumption is something that we should resolve. In the long term, we have to find a resolution to it because we have more than acceptable losses from the point of generation to point of consumption. All the transmission losses, they call it, why this cash water shared system is not working. Is it a case of exchange rate, the operational cost of the inherent issues with the energy sector? But we have shown, the New Patriotic Party under the stewardship of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankor, that look, we experienced the effect of a struggling energy sector when the NDC took us through Dumso for 4 years. And we will not bring that upon Ghanaians.
But is the energy sector still not?
Let me make one other point. Let me make another point. Lantam, before you go on, let me make one other point in reference to Dr. Akua Donkor on what the Minister of Finance said at the IMF a couple of days ago. The minister was on a panel discussion, and then the issue of debt exchange had come out. So he had gone on to say that we have put a plan in place, and we've been successful to the extent that we were able to achieve the objects by which we started the debt exchange. When you mention 12 billion, Dr. Akua Donkor wants us to believe that this is money taken off the Ghanaian taxpayer or the Ghanaian citizen. That is not correct. The breakdown of the 12 billion, it said that our bilateral loans between ourselves as a sovereign nation and other nations, including that of China, was up to 5.1 billion before we started the debt exchange. These creditors have agreed, right, to give us relief. When you say relief, it means that it's like the terms have changed, that is going to give you some respite over a period of time. Between 2023 and 2026, we are enjoying 2.8 billion of reliefs just from our bilateral creditors, from a point of 5.1 billion. Similarly, our Eurobonds, we had 13.1 billion outstanding. We have had write-offs, total write-offs of 4.7 billion, and another relief of 4.4 billion. If you put a 4.4 billion, the 4.7 billion in the write-offs on the Eurobonds, and the 2.8 billion on our bilateral loans, it sums up to 11.9 billion. So the minister was saying that, look, this debt exchange route that what was our objective? Our objective was to put our debt in a sustainable road, such that by 2028 or so, we'll have debt to GDP at around 55%. And that was the objective. And these were the measures that are going to ensure that we get to where we are. So when he said it was a success, he wasn't popping champagne. No, he was saying that the objects that we wanted to attain, we are on road. And that this is the benefit we have. And if our bilateral creditors have been able to write off 2.8 billion on the Eurobonds, given our write-offs and the reliefs, 4.7 billion plus another 4.1, almost 9.8 billion. How is that affecting the Ghanaian? the Ghanaian who had learned, yes, we had undertaken domestic borrowing. We had done domestic exchange. We had exchanged existing bonds for different bonds under different terms, which was going to give us a respite over the payment period and some savings. That's what we set out to do. But you see, this whole thing, it was a painful exercise, admittedly. But look, it takes a very knowledgeable and somebody who really wants to do something about the situation. I always compare this to a case of you getting malaria, where the symptoms show of a headache, maybe a fever, and all of that. When you take paracetamol, right, you get a relief of your headache, maybe your fever will be controlled. But until you take Malarex or chloroquine, as it was, those are the medicines that are going to fight the real agents. I mean, you will always be managing the symptoms of your fever and all of that.
I think
the minister was not popping champagne, but he was telling the whole world that the objects to which we set ourselves, we were still on track. And that was the situation.
Yes, Doc.
Can I come in here?
Yes, Doc, you can come in here.
I just want my colleague, unless of course the minister used the wrong word. If you say DDEP, we are talking of domestic debt exchange program. Let's be clear. If you talk about the bilaterals and all the others, I will give you that. But when you use the word DDEP, you can't be talking about bilaterals.
But Doc, I have given you the breakdown of what our bilateral outstanding was, and what our Eurobond was, and how the benefits we got from the two transactions.
So are we saying that the minister's statement that DDEP was a great success was unfortunate because it is not DDEP?
If the minister had made a statement that DDEP, I mean, the domestic debt exchange had also taken place. And that was also a success. But to the extent that we are talking of 12 billion, it can be related to our external creditors.
So if you take money out of the hands of Ghanaians, if you take money that does not belong to you, money they have worked and sweated for, money that they have saved for a rainy day, out of the hands of Ghanaians, and then you come to tell me that is a success. As a social democrat, you expect me to applaud you. If he says, look, if he says, arising out of the bilateral negotiations, they've been able to say this and that, I wouldn't hold him any lower. But once you use the DDEP, let's be exact.
All right, Doc, we're losing you. The line is breaking. And we're losing you a bit. So I believe that we can work on the internet connection there because it's not it's not really helping us. You were making the point, we're getting the point, but then there's somewhere along the line continued to break. But we'd have to begin to move on to our next topic. Doc, I hope we have a more stable connection now. Can you finish the point? All right. We're still having issues with Dr. Akua Donkor's connection. Unfortunately, the internet sometimes it just fails you, when you really need it the most. But of course, you're still watching GH Today here on GHOne Television on the Zoom connection. You've been listening to Dr. Akua Donkor. He's Member of Parliament for Pru East constituency, and he is former Power Minister under the NDC John Mahama administration. Mr. Kwame Jantwa is here in the studio. He's a member of the Convention People's Party. He's a legal practitioner as well. And Honorable Fuseni Issa is a member of the New Patriotic Party. He's former Member of Parliament for the good people of the Okaikwe North constituency.
Lantam, can I make a point?
Yes, Mr. Jantwa, very briefly, and then let's move on to the next issue.
All this thing we're talking about, who caused that? Before MPP came into power, did we have problems with bonds? You came into power saying that the previous government was using loans to pay loans. When you come, you won't do that. try a possible best to let production earn revenue from other sources.
It reflected in our performance until 2019.
Wait. One of the safest places to invest your money was in bonds, wasn't it? What have you done to that market today? Destroyed it. You've destroyed it.
Our ratings are coming up.
What ratings? What ratings? You think Ghanaians?
The same indicators were pointing out to us.
Please. When you're talking, I was quiet. You think Ghanaians today will save their money in bonds again? Safest place to save your money. Ghanaians will do it? No way. First time in history that Ghana has been shut off from international markets. First time in history.
No, you see, statements like that are very wrong. The first time we had gone to that market, to the Euro market, was 2007 under President Kufuor. That was when we issued a Golden Jubilee. So when you say history, as if we're talking
Are we not shut out?
Pre-colonial.
Are we not shut out?
Because of events.
Are we not shut out?
Because of events that happened.
No, but
are
we
politics with our economy?
Have
we been able?
2007 is when we first went on to the international market to go and borrow. And since then, we've not been shut out of that market before. And then now there has been the very first time that we've been shut out of that market.
So that is not an inaccurate statement. It's not an inaccurate statement.
It is not a misleading.
Please let me finish.
It's an accurate statement. It's an accurate statement.
If for nothing at all, put all the international wahala aside, put all the loans we've gone for aside, have they been able to handle Galamsey?
Oh.
Have they?
Mr. Jatua, no,
laughing.
No, your switch.
It's not a
if
switch.
Lantam had switched, if Lantam had switched, then that's okay.
You know why?
But you know why I went there? You're not sitting here.
You know why I went there?
You're not sitting here.
You know why I went there?
You're not sitting here. If you were sitting here and you changed it, that's fine.
You know why I went there? You know why I went there?
Why?
You want to tell me Galamsey has no effect on our economy? Is that what you're telling me?
Nobody's saying that.
Is what you're telling me?
Nobody's saying that.
So I'm right to go there. You're talking economy. I am right to go there. You haven't been able to solve this Galamsey problem. And it's affecting our economy.
How?
It's affecting our agriculture. It's affecting our water. It's affecting our electricity.
Lantam, what are we talking about now?
It's affecting our economy. Is it not? Is it not? Tell me, is it not?
No, but it's amazing. It's amazing how you dovetail into Galamsey. I said when we are talking about the economy.
Listen, it's not affecting the economy. Galamsey is not affecting the economy.
No, your switch.
Cocoa alone. What is the international?
Lantam, I thought you had a second. You had something you wanted to say.
What are the international buyers telling us? What are they telling us about our cocoa? Where Galamsey is concerned, cocoa isn't it our economy? Doesn't it bring money in our economy?
Right.
So what are you telling me?
Okay.
You don't have the wherewithal to solve a national problem like Galamsey. And if you had, you would call everybody around the table and say, guys, let's sort this thing out collectively, not as a political party.
How many
All right, very well.
attempts?
Collectively.
How many attempts haven't governments done to solve the problem of Galamsey?
To the Zoom connection, let's
it didn't even start with just the
bring in
So
Dr.
you
Kwabla.
You recollect the president.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Dr. Akua Donkor, please. We lost you for a bit there because of our internet connection. Can you finish the points that you are making, gentlemen, please? Oh, no, Mr. Jantua, please hold on. Director, can you please mute their mics for me? Dr. Akua Donkor, their mics are muted. Please come in.
Yes. I was making the point that look, as a nation, we haven't progressed. As a nation, we have been let down by the promise. I am an NDC MP, but I had at least a certain minimum expectations from this government. The very standards they set out in their 2016 manifesto as well as 2020, we have basically not achieved a single one effectively. And I am extremely worried. If you look at the debt burden on the energy sector alone, it's worrisome. Any new government, be it NDC, as I would prefer, or MPP, will have to struggle with the debt burden. Why did we go on a borrowing binge? And there is relatively very little to show for it. If you take oil production, our product declining. Not only is it declining, I think that is not bad enough. We also not even coming up with new prospects. So we have declining production and we don't have new prospects. We've done very little exploration, extremely little exploration. So for the 8 years, if you take the oil and gas sector, almost every single company that was in Ghana has shifted to Cote d'Ivoire, including our indigenous companies who were making strides in oil and gas. They are all based in Cote d'Ivoire. And so let's admit we went wrong somewhere and then see how do we come out of this challenge and what are the lessons. It's not just about promising. It's not just about taking on ill-thought-through programs. Every single program we've undertaken, especially the major one. Let's take planting for food crops. That has been an abysmal failure. An abysmal failure because food prices have skyrocketed. But with the quantum of money we put into that project, we should not have been where we are. So going forward, let's look at efficiency. Let's think through programs. Let's do real costing. It is not enough to launch a program. And you see, my worry, from where I sit as the chairman of the parliamentary on public interest, thought about our ability to manage anything. Even in the alcoholic beverage industry, where the private sector seems to be flourishing.
Right, Doc. Once again, we are losing you because of the connection, the internet connection with our Zoom. Let's try and work on that so that we can connect with you again as you join in this discussion. But we'll have to move on to our next issue. Our next issue, has got to do with this crisis situation in the Bako area, which leaves much to be desired. I mean, yesterday, the government issued a statement with regard to what is happening in Bako, assuring that everything was under control, and alluding to the fact that what has sparked some of these renewed clashes is the fact that there is a rival chief in Bako. But I understand that Dr. Akua Donkor's connection is better now. So right before we move on to that next issue, Doc, I'll come back to you to land on the point that you were making in 1 minute for me so that we can move on to the Bako issue, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. So
I was saying that we must begin as a nation to look at managerial and financial competence. Will you believe that because we are so much involved in issues of non-relevance, an entity such as Temoy Refinery has not been audited or published audited accounts since 2017. We have a number of them. So no matter the money we throw at things, if we do not take financial management, if we do not take rational management seriously, we'll end up where we are. Where we throw money at programs, we don't do cost-benefit analysis, we don't do midterm analysis, we don't find out whether the programs are achieving the desired objectives. We have really messed this country up by not taking financial management seriously. And that cuts across all that we have said. And
right. Very well, Doc. Let's now focus our attention on what's been happening in Bako. So, the Ministry of Interior yesterday released a statement that following an emergency meeting with national security under the chairmanship of the president, government is telling the public that the return to Bako on 24th October of Mr. Seydou Abagre, who was illegally enskined as Bako Naba in February 2023, subsequent to the vacation of the Court of Appeal sitting in Kumasi of the warrant of his arrest. It has led to significant disturbances affecting public peace and security in the area. Unfortunately, the disturbances have resulted in the loss of numerous lives in Bako and its environs, with a looming threat of escalation beyond Bako. Now, based on the assessment by national security agencies, the continued presence of Mr. Seydou Abagre in Bako poses a substantial threat to public safety and security. So in light of the foregoing, pursuant to provisions of the Public Order Act, curfew is imposed on Bako from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., commencing yesterday, which is Monday, October 28, 2024, until further notice. And they say that the government is committed to taking all necessary measures to ensure the safety and security of people of Bako and its environs. And security agencies have been directed to enforce strictly the curfew to maintain law and order. And residents are urged to comply with the directive and cooperate fully with the security agencies to restore peace and normalcy to the area. Any person violating the curfew will be fully punished or will face the full consequences of the law. Honorable Fuseni, I don't know what runs through your mind when you hear all of these issues that keep on recurring, in Bako, and especially now that the government is admitting that the presence of a rival chief is causing all of these problems. Shouldn't the government be telling us about the steps that they are taking to remove the rival chief or to deal with this issue of a rival chief, which they say was illegally enskined?
Lantam, Bako has been a dent on our security and our stability in this country for a while. And then sometimes I'm amazed at the fact that that conflict is being kept in that enclave. But I think that there are fears of its spillage. I mean, I recollect in the...
Yeah, we've seen some of the effects of that very recently, on the Tamale to Bolga highway.
Spilling over that enclave. I have never been to Bako. I have no... but I think that the release yesterday is self-explanatory. If there is a certain Bako Naba who is acknowledged by the courts, and there is a rivalry installation, obviously it is a point to cause tension, and then over time this thing keeps recurring to the extent that, from what I gather, at the point there was arrest warrant on this rivalry.
For his arrest.
It's all very...
But the court has set aside a warrant.
You see, but these are also very sensitive matters. Yesterday I heard the Honorable Cletus Aboka speak on another network, and much for the respect and all of that. He used certain words that I won't repeat here. I've heard the other political actors within the enclave also speak on the matter. And I just think that especially around this time, we should exercise caution, restraint. We should allow the courts to resolve some of these issues. For now, I hope and pray people will go by this directive of the curfew. I hope that people there will realize that, notwithstanding how you perceive whatever is happening within that enclave, at the end of the day, you have to come and sit at the table for the matters to be resolved. I just will urge restraint and caution for the people within that enclave. We pray that it doesn't spill over to other areas. But the government is proven. I mean, the security should be on top of the events to ensure that, look, the peace of that enclave is kept, that it does not spill over to other parts of the regions and nation. So I just want to urge restraint and caution for the people, so to find a lasting resolution to some of this threatening and troubling security issues within the enclave.
Mr. Janswa, let me come to you now on this Bako issue.
I must say, I applaud the president for taking this particular issue and trying to deal with it. At least he didn't leave it for his minister, or didn't leave it for national security alone. He sat as chair to deal with it. Goes to show the seriousness of what is happening in Bako. And I do agree with the curfew. However, we have to be very careful. We're 39 days to election. Mm-hmm. We have to be very careful that it doesn't spill. The curfew doesn't spill into the election period, because that can also create a different scenario that we might not be able to control, because it's the inalienable right of Ghanaians to vote. And if such a challenge is stopping them from voting, you cannot tell what can happen within the confines of Bako under curfew. So I hope we can solve it. And I heard the security people talk about it on radio yesterday and this morning, that there hasn't been any more clashes, that they are trying their possible best. Things seem to be working out. The curfew is from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Let's hope very soon they can resolve it. But this chieftaincy situation, when they say Mr. Seydou Abagri, that's how you pronounce the name, was illegally enskined, is it that he was not supposed to be the one to take over and they brought somebody, or he's forcing himself to be enskinned as chief of the area?
Yeah, it would appear so.
So
it would appear, because there is already a Bako Naba who has been there, for all this while, legally recognized, gazetted by the courts.
40 years, right?
Yeah, and has been reigning as Bako Naba for close to 40 years now.
And what has created this new gentleman to...
I think there's also another ethnic group in the area who also feel that they also should have some power, some mandate, because their people are also there in the area. I think that is what is causing all of these things.
Isn't it a question of sitting down and negotiating and going through whatever it is? What are they fighting for? Is it resources in the area? What is it? Is it the fact that they are being put aside, they are not taken as part and parcel of the community? What is the actual problem? Because nobody seems to be able to tell us what the actual problem is and why this gentleman was enskinned illegally. What's the major problem? Maybe the House of Chiefs should also take this situation up. Was this the same problem that Otumfuo handled some time ago?
No, that was a Dagbon.
That was Dagbon.
That's Dagbon.
Maybe the chiefs should also... You see, I want a situation where when chieftaincy issues come up, the House of Chiefs can immediately trigger and take it up and solve it. Should be able to do it. Because the moment a political head comes in, then there are factions. In Bako, I understand there's a faction that support the NDC, there's a faction that support the MPP. True or false?
But it's so everywhere, Mr. Janswa.
No, I mean, there are some political undertones.
Exactly, and that is what I'm talking about.
Fingers are being pointed,
and that is what
at the NPP,
and that was
the vice president. Fingers are being
point.
pointed at the NDC.
That is the point.
And some
that
MPs
was the point
and all that.
I was coming to. And in situations like this, which we don't do well in this country, We should get to a point in this country where issues like that, political parties could sit together and say, let's solve this thing together. Don't let us leave it to one party. Let's solve it together, because we have supporters from our party, supporters from another party, underhand creating challenges. So I hope this curfew won't go on for too long. I hope the challenges could be solved, and I hope this illegal instrument of this gentleman can be handled. Probably it should go to the courts, for the courts to declare, for the courts to listen to the matter, and for the courts to declare that no, this gentleman is not supposed.
Well, I think that is
to be
clear. I
unscathed.
think the courts have already been clear on this matter, you know.
And so why is it continuing? Why is it continuing? Maybe this gentleman, because I read from your piece that they've been wanted to arrest him for quite some time.
Because he was illegally skinned.
Exactly,
it's one of the things fueling the conflict.
why can't they arrest him? What's the problem?
I think they went to court to
Is money playing a role in there? Is some people paying some people? Is politics playing a role in there? What are the issues that are stopping this gentleman to be arrested? What? So it is something we need to look. But for me, I'm looking at the election. If Bako is set aside and not allowed to vote, it's not everybody in Bako who supports what is going on, and they feel they have the right to vote, and because of this they will be stopped from voting. It can cause challenges for us. So let's try possible best. Between now, we have only 1 month between elections. November, the president has taken the responsibility. I expect him to make sure that by November we've sorted this challenge out, and Bako can be part and parcel of the votes we count come election time.
Well, we're still watching GH Today here on GHOne TV. If we have Dr. Akua Donkor, let's bring him in now. Doc, I hope we have a better connection now. What are your own thoughts on the issues that are happening with regards to this Bako conflict?
First of all, let me praise the president for his position on Bako. He has been very consistent that there is a Bako Naba, and for me that is very pleasing. What we have not done as a people is to acknowledge that this Bako problem is part of our transitional challenge from a group of ethnicities into a modern state. When we talk about the Bako problem, we are not just talking about Bako Township. We are talking about 4 or 5 constituencies. It is a Kusal Mamprugu problem. Unfortunately for us, we saw this problem coming. Once we had the Mamprusi vice president, some Mamprusis will see this as an opportunity because they have power to settle a score. Fortunately for us, the president has been consistent that the current paramount chief, who is a Kusal, is the recognized chief. That is the saving grace. It would have been worse. What needs to come out is for the vice president and the Mamprugu traditional authorities, especially the paramount chief, the overlord of Mamprugu, to take a position that
this whole idea of roping in the vice president into a conflict that has existed long before he became a vice president is unacceptable.
Hold on, let him finish the point. You know that we have had situations. Yesterday, I was speaking to some of the people involved in this conflict.
It is an attempt to rope him in a situation that existed long before his accession to the vice presidency of Ghana.
There are people who are
your attempt to rope in the vice president having a role in this is what is happening.
No, you were here when he has commended the president for working on this matter. Allow him to finish the point. Doc, please finish your point.
excuse me, it may not be the vice president personally, but people think if you don't know the psychology of Ghanaians, then I'm sorry, then you still have a lot of growing up to do.
Who thinks? It's your like, your ilk. Who think? It is your like, your ilk. Who think? And not people.
Honorable Fuseni Issa, you know that there are political undertones to this entire.
It's been existing for as long as the conflict is up.
You would admit that there are political undertones.
Nobody is calling the name of Mama Yerga. Who is been in there for that long?
I think you are getting overly emotional about
that. I'm not being emotional.
President's name
I am not being emotional.
Has been mentioned.
I am not being emotional.
No, but you see, Honorable Hussein Issa, allow the man to make the point.
Because he's throwing in a perception that has to be stopped.
He's not the first person to do that. There are people who are involved in the conflict who are making comments like the vice president is there now, and so we feel that we have the right. People involved in the conflict on social media have made those comments. And so allow the man who is making I don't believe that we should engage in this battle, because there are people who are on social media who are Mamprusi people who are making comments like this on Twitter, on social media, that the vice president is our president. So it is to
my
a point.
Problem and my challenge is an attempt to rope in the vice president into a problem that has existed, pre-existed before he became vice president. As if you are talking as if before Bamia became vice president.
Please make the point. Please make the point. Honorable Kwabena Donkor, please make the point. Producer, please turn off his mic for me.
So all I'm saying is that the government has taken a position, a clear position of law and order, a clear position of recognizing the existing Bako Naba. So that ought not to be an issue. But there are people who will take advantage of the fact that we now have a son as the second most important position, and the vice president will not be personally involved in this.
In the area for that long.
But
is his tribe not taking advantage of that?
Yes, but his people. Yes, his people. Look, and one of the things about this curfew is that a lot of killing has happened in a particular village on its. I would prefer to also see that village, that community put under curfew, so that there seems to be a balancing act. And the danger for the coming election is that we have about 5 constituencies directly impacted by this. So the Ghanaian state has taken the right step, but it has to go further. We are, and I've always insisted that the state is different from the nation and is different from the country. We are now putting various nations, ethnicities together to create a state. It's still work in progress. And so some of these hiccups will come. When they come, let's use our God-given intellectual ability, isolate the problems, and find a solution. It can be done. His Excellency the President has shown leadership on this, and I applaud that. But the remnants will have to be roped in. And the Nairi can be magnanimous by also boldly stating that, look, he accepts the status quo and we can find a way of working together. After all, there's a lot of blood relations between Kosals and Mamprusis. And let's take that and build on that.
Very well, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, thank you very much for your contribution to the program. And this is where we will wrap up the breakfast review segment today. I'm grateful to all of you gentlemen for joining us here in the studio, and of course to you, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, joining us via Zoom to engage in the discussions today. Dr. Kwabena Donkor is Member of Parliament for the Pru East constituency. He is former power minister under the NDC administration. Mr. Kwame Jantwa Esquire is a member of the Convention People's Party. And the Honorable Fuseni Issa is a former MP for the Okaikoyi North constituency.
I think you should address me properly. Alhaji.
Alhaji.
Okay,
Alhaji.
thank you.
Alhaji.
Right.
Honorable Alhaji Husseini Isa.
You can drop, but
Yes.
the Alhaji is very important.
Thank you very much,
You
Alhaji.
can drop the honorable.
for
keep
joining
the
us
Alhaji.
here in the studio. This is where we wrap up the breakfast review segment. There's still more to come here on GH Today. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're welcome back to GH Today here on GHOne Television, and we want to talk about something which will be of interest to a lot of people here in this country. We've got our own election coming up in the next 39 days. On December 7, Ghanaians will be going to polls to go and vote to choose our members of parliament for the various constituencies, 275 of them, and then we will also choose our president. And so the political parties are out there campaigning very rigorously to ensure that you choose them to be representatives and you choose them to form the next government. Well, another election that the whole world will be looking at is the election in the United States of America. A very close race, if you look at some of the polls that have come up recently in the U.S., between former President Donald Trump and current Vice President Kamala Harris. In about 7 days, the United States of America is going to the polls to go and vote. And that's an election that a lot of people all around the world are very interested in and are looking at to see whether or not Donald Trump will go back to the White House or Kamala Harris will stay in the White House, this time as president of the United States of America. Let's talk about this a little bit. We've been joined via Zoom by Angela Forbes. Angela Forbes is Director of Strategic Initiatives, Democrats Abroad. And we'll have a conversation with her with regard to the U.S. election. Thank you very much for joining us here on GH1 Television and GH Today, Angela. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me today.
And,
good morning.
Yes, good morning to you. We're grateful that you've joined us. We're excited that you've joined us here on the show today. Let's first of all talk about Democrats Abroad. Who are Democrats Abroad? Let's start from there before we get into the details of the rest of the conversation.
Well, Democrats Abroad, actually this year is our 60th anniversary. We have people in every country in the world, and we have country committees in 52 countries. A country committee is where Americans can gather together and do political work in a particular country and help get out the vote, educate people on various issues, and sometimes to just have a little bit of fun. It's a great organization that I've been involved with I guess for the past 8 years, and it's been a wonderful experience to get to know so many Americans around the world.
Right, and I mean, obviously, your name will suggest that you lean towards the Democratic Party, and so the candidates that you'll be supporting would be Kamala Harris, correct?
Yes, that is correct. I'm 100% supporting Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
Why?
Well, first of all, Kamala is a great candidate. She spent her life working for the people of the United States, and her policies are much better than the opposition's. And the opposition is basically a bunch of racist, sexist, and hateful people that we can't allow to have control of our government.
Right, and I believe these are some of the reasons why you believe that Kamala should be elected president. But how is the campaign going? How are people warming up to her message?
Since the switch was made between Harris and Biden, people have been extremely excited. We've had an influx of volunteers. We've had an influx of donations. We've had just everyone is super excited, and they're excited not only by her, but her policies and the plans that she has for the United States in the next 4 years.
You know, so, I mean, what will it take really to push Kamala Harris over the edge in your estimation? Because some of the polls that we're looking at with regard to your country's election indicates that Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are neck and neck. In fact, I'm looking at a website which is talking about some of the polls that have come up, especially in the past 2 weeks. The Wall Street Journal's poll is giving Trump a 2% advantage over Harris, which is a shift from August when Kamala Harris led by 2%. In another poll from the Financial Times, and the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business is finding that 44% of voters said they will trust Trump with the economy, while 43% said they will trust Harris, marking another reversal from earlier. The New York Times and Siena College, in a poll last week Friday, indicated that it's a 48% tie, with Trump erasing Harris's prior 2% lead. A CNN poll on Friday had the candidates in a 47% deadlock after I showed, Harris with a 1% edge earlier. And today I'm looking at some polls, and it's given Kamala Harris, about a 1.5% edge, a very slight edge. So with all of these figures coming out, in your estimation, how difficult does that make the campaign, and what will it take to push Kamala really over the edge for the people of America to choose her as the next president?
Well, I think one of the things that will really help, and we're not actually counted, are Democrats abroad. Democrats abroad is definitely the margin of victory. We have, there are 6 million Americans around the world that can vote, and many of them are in Ghana, and they can all still request an absentee ballot for this election. Plus, I'm not entirely sure that the polls are counting the desire for women to have their rights restored. Women are outvoting men by very much, and that there are women of all ages who don't like the way that the United States is going, and we want to restore our rights, because once you take away our bodily autonomy, you've taken away, what will you take away next? I think we're definitely going to win this election, but it also requires everyone to vote.
So what are the mobilization efforts looking like, really? Reaching out to Americans all over the world who are Democrats or who are supporters of the Democratic Party, to come out and make sure that they're also counted when it comes to making sure they determine who becomes the next president of the country.
Well, we have a broad outreach for Americans abroad, and we are running ads in almost every country. And so far, we're actually doing quite well with getting people to request ballots from votefromabroad.org and to vote. We are not quite at the levels that we were in 2020, but we're very close. And before the election is over, we're gonna close in on our levels in 2020. In 2020, we helped win Georgia, we helped win Arizona, and we also contributed, of course, to all the other states where Biden won. So our outreach is continuing. We've had a series of events to highlight candidates. We've done many contacts with phone banking, text banking, emailing, and they've been super effective so far.
Right. So what is that key message, to everyone out there, even those who are undecided on who it says that they want to vote for, right? From the Kamala Harris campaign, what is that key message, to really get people to be interested in exercising their franchise and making this happen for the Democratic Party?
Well, the key message would be, as Kamala Harris frequently says, we are not going back. And there are forces in the world and in the United States that want to take us back to the 19th century, where primarily only white European men ruled everything. And we're not going back. And if you believe that you don't want to go back to this time, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent, it would behoove you to exercise your franchise and vote. It's very important that we don't slip back into a time that no one really wants to go back to.
Well, when you say you're not going back, I mean, what would take you back? I mean, one would believe that the United States of America has gone past that period. It's a country that is very accommodating of people of all races, of all genders, of all sexes, of all sexualities, and everything like that. Your democracy has reached the level where, those are not even issues anymore. So when you say you don't want to go back, I mean, what forces out there that potentially could take America back?
Well, they're not issues for the majority of the people, but there's a small, vocal, and sometimes violent group of people in America that want to go back to a time where no one had rights. There are people that believe that women shouldn't be able to vote. There are people that believe that no one should be able to immigrate to the United States or go there to study if you're not white or American. Honestly, there was a rally that Trump just had at Madison Square Gardens in New York City, and he spent the whole rally was just denigrating people of other races and immigrants, blacks, Hispanics, just on and on. There was a lot of sexism. And they've clearly stated their intentions, what they want to do. They want to turn Trump into a dictator. They want to take the rights away from everyone else and move back to a time that was literally pre-Civil War.
But I'm curious to know how exactly that is going to happen with all of the systems and the laws and policies, that the U.S. has in place. How is Trump going to become a dictator for one of the longest surviving democracies that we have in the world? With Congress in place and all of that, how exactly is that going to happen? I'm curious.
Well, I don't know if you've heard of Project 2025 that was created by the Heritage Foundation. It's a 1,000-page document that details, it's actually on their website, if you just Google it, Project 2025, that details how they want, the things that they want to do. They want to get rid of the Department of Education. They want to get rid of the Department of Health. They're interested in just basically, the whole document is a very long, detailed plan of how they want to roll back the United States of America. And given that the fact that recently our Supreme Court ruled that basically the President of the United States can't be punished, or anything that he does can't be criminalized, it is very important that we have leaders that don't want to abuse their powers, because at this point they might be legal if that happens. There are lots of forces that are working. They're not huge. It's not the majority of people, but they have a lot of money, and they've been working on this for about 50 years, and they think that they've reached their crowning achievement. But we, the people, the United States citizens, we need to stop that, and we do that by voting and then keeping active after we vote.
But is that what the Trump campaign, has been campaigning on? Are they campaigning with that document in mind? Is that what they are saying they are going to do?
That is not exactly what they're not saying. They're going to do that specifically, but if you look at Trump's website, he has something called it's something called like Presidency 47, and it has a bunch of videos that detail very similar policies that are listed in Project 2025. He just gave it another name, but it is really the same thing. Not to mention that many of the people that support him, not just what he said, but many of the people that support him are also touting this Project 2025. Even if they don't use the words, they're taking the projects and programs in that and making those campaign issues. One of those issues is deporting 20 million people from the United States. And that would be a nightmare that I don't think anybody can really imagine what it would be like to round up 20 million people out of the United States and deport them to somewhere.
Right. So I mean, so essentially, a vote for Trump will be taking you back to, in quotes, the dark ages, and that's something that you don't want to happen. And so you encourage people to vote Kamala instead, if I'm right.
Yes, that's correct. We need to move forward. We need to expand on the liberties and freedoms that we have in order to continue our democracy and make it better for our children and our children's children, so that we can live in a more positive world.
Right. So what are some of the other, real issues that Americans are looking at, that would really give the Democratic Party an edge, things that would improve their lives, things that would make them better, things like the economy, among other things. How much of a center stage are those issues, taken with regard to this election? And how is the Democratic Party candidate poised to address some of those issues?
Well, Kamala Harris has a lot of plans that she's documented on her website, and anyone can go there and download. It's in a PDF, but definitely she has a plan for fighting, to lowering costs for everyone, fighting inflation. She's also working on making our lives, we have gun control issues. We need expanded health care in the United States. We need to lower prescription costs. The Biden-Harris administration has already lowered many of the prescriptions for senior citizens, but we need to actually spread that down to the rest of the people and make sure that people aren't paying so much money. She's got a plan for helping people buy a house with a $25,000 credit for everyone to help them with their down payment, which is really awesome. That would help a lot of people buy a house. She has a plan to actually work with the private sector to build more housing, build more affordable housing, so that right now, buying a house in the United States and in many places is very expensive. But if we had, and that's because we don't have enough housing. So if we had more housing, it would lower the prices and it would give more people the opportunity to be first-time home buyers. She has plans to help people who want to start businesses, which will definitely boost the economy. She has plans for just about everything you could think of, including the environment, which is very, very important, because one of the things that the Republicans just really don't care about is climate change. They're not interested in doing anything about it, and none of us will be safe, not in the United States or anywhere else, if we don't tackle the problem of climate change.
Right. So how do you respond, when people say, for example, that when it comes to the economy, Donald Trump has an edge, because when he was president, the U.S. economy was relatively better than even it is under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And moving forward, if you want the U.S. economy to improve and become better, he would be the man best suited to do that. That's an argument that the Republicans and your opponents, have put out there. So what is the counter argument to that, so that you can really convince people that, look, the Democratic Party is the way to go and we've got the economy covered?
In every Democratic administration since before I was born, that the economy has always done better under Democrats. And in fact, Donald Trump's economy in the very beginning was Barack Obama's economy. And most people don't really remember that towards like this second or third year, things started to go downhill. And then we had COVID and things really went downhill. Since then, since Biden has been president and Biden and Harris have been running, the administration has been running the United States, we have the lowest unemployment rate ever. We have the economy, the U.S. economy is now the envy of the world. We made a bigger comeback after COVID than almost anyone. The Biden-Harris administration has set up a lot of policies, the infrastructure bill, the climate change bill. We've had so many things that are bringing more jobs to the United States and making higher wages. Donald Trump is a failed businessman that has failed at almost every business that he's ever had, including running a casino, which I still can't imagine losing money running a casino, because gambling is an addiction and you don't have to tell people to go there. And his plans for tariffs will only affect people in the United States. It will only raise the prices for people in the United States. It will not affect China in the way that he thinks it will. It will not affect any other country in the way that he thinks it will. It will just raise the cost and cause inflation in the United States.
Right. So in really drumming home the message, to Americans all over the world to come out and vote, for those who would actually want to exercise their franchise, even though they are not, or they may not necessarily be in the country where it's time to vote, how do they do that? How can Americans, for example, in Ghana, vote in the upcoming elections?
Well, in Ghana or anywhere around the world, if you go to votefromabroad.org and you can request an absentee ballot, it'll ask you for a little bit of information, where you live, where you would vote, your address in the United States, and that's typically the last address you had in the United States, or it could be your parents' home or something else. Whatever address that you want to use, your home of record is your last address, but you can use also your parents' address or a relative or something like that too. And then ask for your ballot to come to you by email so it arrives quickly. Once it gets to you, print it out, vote your ballot, and many places, 26 states in the United States, have the ability to return your ballot electronically. So that's either by email or an upload on some sort of voting portal, or it could also be fax. If it's fax, you can use there's a lot of email to fax programs, and you can find that information on votefromabroad.org also. And if you have to mail it at this point, I would suggest that you use DHL or some other courier service to get it back as quickly as possible. But it is still possible to get a ballot, and it takes about 5 minutes to go through the website, and then once you're done, it sends an email to your local election office, and then they will email you back your ballot, and you can vote. And every vote counts. I know a lot of people think that they don't count the votes that are sent from overseas, but they do count them. And in many cases, as I said previously, we are the margin of victory.
Right. So coming back to the campaign, let's talk a little bit about it. You've got just about 7 days before the U.S. elections. The polls. I'm looking at another poll here, which says that Kamala Harris has a 1.4 percentage points lead, according to 538. That's the poll tracker. They have a daily poll tracker. So by October 27, it puts Kamala up by 48.1%, and Trump is trailing. He's up to about 46.6%. So that's as of October 28. So it looks like it's going to be a very, very tight race, and there are probably some key swing states that are really going to push this election over the edge. So in the next 7 days, to really do some good work to get the Democratic Party over the edge as far as this election is concerned, what are the steps that are being taken, and especially by your organization as well?
We're concentrated, of course, on the so-called swing states, but we're also concentrated on states that people aren't considering swing states, like Texas and Florida and Ohio, because there's a real opportunity there to make some big gains. And I think Texas, if you're a Texas voter out there, Colin Allred is probably going to beat Ted Cruz. There's a lot of things that are happening in this election that are a little bit surprising in some ways, like in Nebraska, it's possible that the Republican Senate seat could be lost. The candidate there is doing outstanding, and has definitely it's very close, if not, he's not ahead. In Indiana, I was really surprised at how well the Democrats are doing in Indiana. That used to be a Democratic state, but it hasn't been in the past few cycles, but we can get it back. Definitely, we've got abortion is on the ballot in 10 states, and that's going to bring a lot of people out to vote. So I think for us, we're concentrating on helping people get their ballots back, because we've had thousands and thousands of people request absentee ballots, and sometimes people need help, and you can also get help from vote from abroad. We have actually, we really actually have hundreds of volunteers that are standing by to answer your questions about how you get your ballot back, or if you're having problems still getting a ballot. And we're running advertising, of course. We're continuing to run advertising around the world, and we are doing everything that we possibly can to bring out the vote for the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
You know, and there are going to be a lot of first-time voters, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of
Yes.
Gen Zs, you know, are going to be voting for the very first time, and you'd want them to vote for the Democratic Party. We know that somewhere in the year 2022, for example, a state like Michigan saw the highest youth voter turnout in the country, you know, with long lines at polling stations, on college campuses, you know, during the midterm election. So Michigan is one of the states that you'd want to really focus on. But, I mean, across, you know, the rest of America, all the other states, what is the plan, you know, for the youth to really get them out to vote, and not just vote, but also vote for Kamala Harris?
Well, Kamala Harris has been definitely appealing to the youth. And in our case, we have a youth caucus, and they've been out. Speaking of Michigan, we actually have people. So Michigan is right on the border of Canada, and we have, ironically, there's really a lot of Americans that live on the border of Michigan. They've come from Michigan, and we've actually had people out door knocking. There's that many Americans there that you can actually just go to a neighborhood and knock on people's doors and find them. Appealing to the youth, there's definitely, she started appealing to the youth when she did a college campus tour earlier this year. She went to lots and lots of colleges, and from everything that I've seen, it's working, and that college age people, the Gen Z, they are definitely voting for Kamala.
Right. And now let's talk a little bit also about the black community, you know, in the U.S. I mean, there have been allegations that have been leveled against this Biden administration as not doing much for the black community in terms of empowering them economically, you know, among other things. I mean, there are allegations against Kamala Harris, you know, looking at her record when she was Attorney General for her state, you know, that she had one of the highest incarceration rates of black, you know, and colored people, and all of that. And so a vote for her really is not going to inure too much to the benefit of the black community. How is the Kamala Harris campaign responding to those who bring up those issues?
Well, as far as when she was the Attorney General of California, I think all those statements about her locking up more African American and people of color are not correct. She actually set up a lot of programs to help keep people out of jail instead of sending them to jail when they were, instead of being incarcerated for committing crimes. She's done a lot to help African American people, and especially the Biden-Harris administration. One of the things that they've done is that they've actually given so much money to the historically black colleges. Another thing that they've done, which does help people of color, is that they have discharged 30 million student loans, which is an amazing amount. And that helps people not having to pay that bill for however long. I know someone who's actually 70, 75 years old, and they still have student loans that they have to pay. Not everybody has gotten them discharged, but I mean, you could end up paying them for quite some time. The Biden-Harris administration has done a lot for maternal mortality for African-American women. They are definitely working they've lowered prices on many prescription drugs. Again, they've raised the Social Security amount for older people. There's probably a lot more that we probably don't have time for me to go through the whole litany, but Vice President Harris is working to help Black people in America create generational wealth and make their lives better.
Very well. I wish we had more time to really get into some of the other issues, but we'll have to leave our conversation here. And I'm grateful that you've joined us here to talk to us. I would like to take a final comment from you in just about 1 minute as we're wrapping up this conversation.
I think it's very important for the future of the United States and for the future of the world that everyone who's out there, who's an American watching this or knows Americans, to take the opportunity to request an absentee ballot and contribute to our great future that's ahead of us. We have so many possibilities, and I personally don't want my children or my nieces or nephews to be limited by the options that a racist and sexist Republican Party would have for them. And I don't want anyone else's children to be limited by that either. I want us to have a great future. And the way that we do that at this moment is by voting. So if you're outside of the United States and you're watching this, please go to votefromabroad.org and request an absentee ballot, have it sent by email. And on the 6th of November, we can all wake up and feel proud that we contributed to the future.
Very well. Angela Forbes, thank you very much for speaking to us here on GHOne Television. We're grateful.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Angela Forbes is Director of Strategic Initiatives with Democrats Abroad, speaking to us here on the show today about the U.S. election. And she's been making a point as to why Americans all over should be voting for Kamala Harris. Well, the U.S. election is shaping up. I think at the end of the day, in maybe about the next 7-8 days, we'll know who the next president of the United States will be. Will it be Donald Trump staging a comeback, or will it be Kamala Harris staying in the White House from vice president to president and being the first female president of the United States of America, or should I say first female president and woman of color of the United States of America? Well, let's wrap up our show today with some birthday wishes. And this very first birthday wish is to Kimora Nana Selby. Kimora Sashat Nana Selby. Happy birthday to you as you mark your day. Blessings and unending joy and God's favor is all that we seek for you. You are loved dearly. And this is from your mother, Mrs. Harriet Selby. Happy birthday to you. To the pair that shares more than just a birthday, may your special day be twice as fun and your happiness multiply in the year ahead. Happy birthday to Nelson from Kwame Iniesta at Konongo. Happy birthday to you. This birthday, I wish you abundant happiness and love. May all your dreams turn into a reality. May Lady Luck visit your home today. Happy birthday to one of the sweetest people I've ever known. Happy birthday, Ifia Atkinson from Kwame Iniesta at Konongo. And this one says, happy birthday to my wonderful sister-in-law. I'm truly grateful to have you in my life, not just as family, but as one of my dearest friends. Thank you for being such a loving partner to my brother and for all the joy that you bring. I appreciate you so much. Akuma Papa B. Jennifer Sending you all my love. Happy birthday to PO2 Simona Apabe, military nurse at 6 Medical Reception Station, Kamina Barracks, Tamale. Stay blessed and may the Almighty Happy birthday to Phoebe Latte. May God bless you. This is from your brother Solomon Latte and the family. So happy birthday to you, Phoebe. Happy birthday to Stella. Wishing you long life and amen to all your prayers. Stella, happy birthday to you. Yes, and if it's your birthday out there, we've not mentioned you today. From us here, we say happy birthday to you and may God bless you and may you live long and prosper. On that note, we'll wrap up GH Today here on GHOne Television and we'll say thank you very much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow with a Wednesday edition of the show. And my name is Lantam, Papanko. I'll see you at 11:30 for Newsroom. Until then, keep on watching GHOne Television. Have a wonderful day.
GHOne OV van has been one of the best vans I've used personally in this country. It runs a system where we are able to run on Dante to be able to do our broadcast mixed well also from this van.
I've used this OB van for quite a number of big productions, i.e. 3 music awards, the late President Rollis' state funeral, Emmys Africa Awards, and a number of them.
My experience with the GHOne van has been the state of the art equipment they have. Personal experience is you can use it for both indoor and outdoor, all events, conferencing, like anything you need a van to work for you, GHOne provides it.
My experience with the van has been very good. Why? Because it has a number of facilities that I may not get in other vans. You know, the van has a very wide bench that can accommodate all my technical crew, ICCU, switcher, graphics, CG, and all of that. And then it also has a studio, a green room studio that comes with TriCaster. So if you want somebody to do commentary on a live event, you can put that presenter who's in that studio as well and get that running.
To give an experience to our audience, we're also watching on TVs and online. Work with an Exo technology system, which makes your video mixing with Panasonic cameras, like a lot of other stuff in terms of content you need to get also for your live broadcasts.
I prefer the GHOne van to a lot of other vans I've used, or even doing my own setup on a tabletop setup. Because on a production, you see a number of people in the van. And so if you have a very small van, it means that it's going to be choked, and that will affect the creativity as well. The price has been discounted as well to accommodate varied budgets. And so no matter the budget you have, I understand you can have the truck and do business with it.
It looks huge, but very affordable. Cost is really, really affordable. My experience with this EMI Awards last year, super excellent. Try it, call them, and I'm going to give you the best of price. Really affordable.